For the past 5 years or so, I've been weighing up whether or not to just cancel my Netflix subscription because is it really worth it when so many of the shows it's been putting out are just absolutely, well, I can't say that word. But honestly, I've been so disappointed by the kind of shows that have been rolling out on Netflix. And then I watched Arcane, and my mind changed completely. I started looking towards some of the animated features on Netflix, and they've been genuinely quite impressive. But Arcane is just leagues above almost any animated project I've ever seen. The amount of detail put into every little frame exceeds something like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And it's because I think that it's just more subtle. And of course, there are certain scenes that are very colorful and very obviously stylistic and portraying a lot of themes and messages for anyone to see. But when you start thinking a bit about it and you start looking a little bit closer, nearly every scene is of utmost importance in portraying to us what the show is trying to say. And I decided to analyze one of the scenes that don't really outwardly package itself as the most obviously important in portraying something about characters until you take a closer look. So I'm going to analyze and dissect this scene that I like to call the Arcane politics scene, which does a masterful job of characterizing both Jace and specifically Mel, and just essentially talking about the politics in the world of Arcane. So I hope you enjoy it. Hey, before anyone comes for me for that Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse statement, I'm not saying that there's less Easter eggs in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I'm just saying that the sort of detail that's not just visual, but like dialogue and everything is just to me more impressive, or just on a grander scale, and almost more like philosophically thought out than Across the Spider-Verse, but like, yeah, that's an opinion. Before I start with my analysis, I'd like to define arcane. It's an adjective which means known or noble only by a few people. In other words, it means secret. Now, it's difficult to think of an animated project saturated with more painstaking attention to detail in its visual and auditory storytelling techniques than the Netflix series Arcane. One clever thing its creators have done is ensuring that their stylistic decisions surrounding characters' characterization reflect their personalities. A central character, Jinx, has very loud, jarring, and neon cinematic techniques used to achieve her stylistic characterization because she is boisterous and becomes increasingly delirious as the series plays out. The opposite of this can be observed in the case of Medarda, a member of the Piltover Council whose characterization is guarded, subtle, hidden, and one might even argue, arcane, just like Mel. This character's characterization is extremely intricate. It opens itself up fully only to those who truly look for it. As the YouTuber Alexander put it, the devil is in the details of Mel's characterization. When setting out to understand Mel, we as the viewer must be sensitive to the clues left for us by the creators of the show. Through analyzing the clever mise-en-scene of the scenes relating to Mel, including the use of setting, the color gold, props, angles, shot scale, composition, and character placement, as well as the use of sound, specifically music and dialogue, we can fully grasp what the creators of the show are communicating about Mel's character. At its core, Arcane is about politics, identity politics, clashing ideologies, corruption, political violence, moderate politics. The list goes on. One thing that is certain is that Medarda, a skilled genius politician with a tongue sharper than any sword, is at the center of the politics in Arcane. She talks, she manipulates, she maneuvers. These are the words of Schnee used in his analysis of the character. She ties an invisible thread around everyone she wishes to control, like a puppeteer. However, for all her scheming, Mel doesn't let Piltover's politics interfere with its safety and overall prosperity. Many viewers do not trust Mel as a character in the first half of the season because she is incredibly influential yet secretive. The fact that the creators of Arcane could provoke such apprehension of this character is no mean feat. Arcane cleverly utilizes certain stylistic approaches to indicate the secretly extreme level of power and control that Mel possesses, especially in the political sphere. The Arcane politics scene is one of the most impressive uses of the Arcane subtle cinematic techniques in the series. In it, Mel is teaching Jace, a scientist who is too principled for his own good, how to navigate the morally ambiguous world of diplomacy. What better opportunity might there be to characterize the mysterious Mel than a scene which depicts the literal arcane, hidden politics which she dominates? Jace is the latest addition to the Piltover Council that Mel might as well be the director of, and she decides to play a guiding role in helping him understand how her politics work. Jace, who has had the role of counselor pushed on him by Mel and the other counselors, is struggling to come to terms with what this position demands of him. Many would mistake this scene as having the main purpose of showcasing a turning point for Jace's character, but when taking a closer look, it becomes clearer and clearer that it is demonstrating the scale of Mel's power in the world of Piltover politics. Now, with the narrative context of the Arcane politics scene established, let us observe how the scene plays out stylistically, specifically in terms of mise-en-scene, which in film is essentially the director's control over what appears in the film frame. Before delving into anything else, I would like to suggest that the setting or location in which the scene takes place is crucial in aiding our understanding of it. The physical setting or space of a scene is geographical and architectural. This setting need not only be a container for human events, but can dynamically enter the narrative action. It can be elevated to become a dramaturgical space which is encoded with symbolic and social meanings that ultimately help us understand the true meaning of the scene. In this case, the setting is being used as an extended metaphor, which is a metaphor that continues over several sentences or lines and can associate qualities to a character that would be difficult to do otherwise. The metaphor is a hidden one, never expressed verbally but implied heavily, very much akin to Mel's nudging in the political world. In the Arcane politics scene, an indirect comparison is drawn between Mel's power and the theatre in which the scene takes place. This is achieved through the use of a seal of the Medarda family, which represents Mel, on the theatre in the establishing shot, as well as a following shot showing the Medarda seal on the highest booth in the theatre. This shows that this is Mel Medarda's theatre. It is her territory, and she is the one with the most power inside of it. The theatre, and by extension Mel, is host not only to performances, but also to arcane, backdoor politics, and mercantile deals. Mel is thus aware of and in control of not only what performances occur in the theatre, but also what corrupt deals are struck in it. Mel has provided a place of moral limbo, in which clandestine deals can be struck between the Piltover elite. The shady nature of these deals is cleverly depicted by the dark, soft lighting in the theatre booths, where the deals are to take place. The lack of exposure and contrast obscuring the people in the booths make the deals secret and hidden. Mel has created this space very intentionally because she can ensure that corrupt political activity in Piltover remains measured, harmless, and, well, above all, aligned with her interests. It is important to realize that though this is where Mel's control plays out the most blatantly, it is not only here where she is most powerful. The theatre is but a metaphor for the general extent of her power in Piltover. The extended metaphor of the theatre as Mel's degree of power continues as we come to see that she not only facilitates and hosts the deals and performances in the theatre, but likes to merge the two, creating an arcane connection between them. This can be seen in an additional extended metaphor that is drawn between Jace's performance as a novice politician and the performance on stage. A man with black hair like Jace's plays a fiddle-like instrument as the set becomes alive. This is even stated explicitly by Mel when she says,
"Your audience awaits, Counselor."
We see the visual comparisons drawn between Jace and the setting, or the performance in the theatre, as visual parallels are drawn between the two, making the setting mirror and express his emotional and psychological state, as well as his turbulent situation. When Jace realizes that he must let go of some of his principles, this scares him, which is reflected by the icy set on stage. When the first member of the Piltover elite, Amara, enters the booth he is in, a boat sails into choppy waters on stage, symbolizing that Jace must suddenly navigate uncharted waters. The events on the stage are portrayed from a low, dog's eye level angle, which paired with close-up shots of Amara's disapproving gaze and his frown indicate how threatened and uneasy Jace feels. As Mel starts to talk her way around an annoyed Amara, immediately spinning white lies, both a close-up of Jace's furrowed brow and the storm brewing on stage indicate that he realizes how troubled he is with the kind of dishonesty that is expected of him. Eventually, Jace forces a smile on his face as he relents to Mel's influence. He manages to use his own white lie to convince Amara not to turn against him. The storm on stage, however, does not end. Jace must still cajole several other people in the theatre before he makes it out of the storm. The scene follows Jace striking deals, all the while cutting to the performer playing a crescendo on his fiddle as the storm rages on. This parallel now seems to suggest that Jace is braving the storm and playing the politicians and merchants like a fiddle as he does so. The scene ends with Jace clinking goblets with another politician and a cut to a serene set on stage. Blue skies and sunshine as the ship survives the storm. In the final moments of the scene, we see Mel clapping not for the performer on stage, but Jace. Though she arranged both performances, Jace's played out
Better than expected.
But that's the extent of Jace's characterization in the scene. Mal's goes so much deeper. In auditory terms, the fact that the scene is about Mal is indicated through the use of diegetic sound in the scene. Diegetic, meaning the sound's source, is in the story world and is audible to screen characters. Mal is the main focus and main character in the scene. The diegetic sound is always what can be heard by Mal. When Jace goes to other booths to strike deals with the Piltover elite, only the music from the performance and the dialogue between Mal and her assistant Elora can be heard. Visually, we can see a continuation of the theatre setting being crucial in understanding Mal's power in the scene. Since the theatre belongs to Mal, the moment that the Piltover elite step into it, they cross into her sphere of influence, her discipline. This influence, this puppeteer string, is invisible to the politicians, but clear to those looking to analyze the scene. Thomas Alsacia describes the function of mise-en-scene as the sublimation of dramatic conflict into decor, color, gesture, and composition of frame, which rings true in the scene. A color of significance is gold. Mal's attire, makeup, and even hair are adorned with gold. The color of prosperity, wealth, and high social standing, as well as ambition and determination. This serves to emphasize Mal's position in the social hierarchy of Piltover, as well as her ambition to be its most powerful figure. The color also becomes a motif that comes to associate golden things with Mal. The decor described by Alsacia is the prop, an object in the setting which has a function within the ongoing action, which in this scene are golden goblets. These, given their color, are visually associated with Mal. The same goes for the golden wine everyone is drinking in the theatre. This is significant because it is a visual indicator that emphasizes what I have suggested before. In this theatre, everyone is subscribing to Mal's influence. They are literally drinking from her cup and drinking her wine. Mal is thus playing God in this theatre, as the Piltover elite drink in and absorb her control and doctrine. They are playing in her house, under her rules. Mal's almost godlike power is further emphasized by her literal higher position in the theatre. Her being located in the central highest booth in the theatre gives her the advantage of total, almost omniscient surveillance of the rest of the people in the theatre. This surveillance is emphasized by the high-angle shots looking down at other members of Piltover society, imitating Mal's perspective. Stedler and McWilliam explain that camera positions can have an ideological implication when used to represent the power relations between screen characters. This indicates to us that the creators of Arcane are showing us that Mal is looking down on the others, solidifying her superior status as they have to look up at her to meet her gaze. Her booth's relation to her surveillance can be analyzed further. Why do the Piltover elites seem so docile in their acceptance of Mal's influence over their deals, and why is Mal growing more and more powerful in the socio-political hierarchy in Piltover? Now, bear with me, but the answer actually lies in Michel Foucault's theory of the panopticon, which almost definitely inspired the writers of the scene. Foucault compares social structures and power dynamics to a panopticon, a prison in which guards can continually see inside each cell from their vantage point in a high central tower. Mal's high central booth is extremely similar to the tower described here. Foucault believed that power and knowledge come from observing others, and that the more you observe, the more power you have over these people because you grow more knowledgeable about their dealings. This is exactly what Mel is doing.
That merchant formerly enjoyed certain leniencies with regard to her trade in exchange for her generous academy patronage.
By leniencies, you mean corruption.
Amara's harmless. Oh, look at those two stooges.
Councillors Hoskell and Zeller? Don't they hate each other?
But they share a taste for the fine Enoxian spirits, technically an illegal import.
Mal describes to Jace what the emotions and actions of the people in the theatre are, emphasizing the knowledge and thus power that she has gained from surveilling them. Foucault suggests that the observer's actions are informed by what they have seen and heard, which explains why Mal is so good at manipulating people. She knows what they want. As for the lack of resistance from the elites, Foucault's theory claims that the outcome of surveillance is the acceptance of regulations and docility, a normalization of sorts stemming from the threat of discipline, which in this case would be getting on the bad side of the most influential person in Piltover. This calls for us to return to our first conclusion, that the theatre, the architectural setting of the scene, is a metaphor for Mal's power and influence in Piltover. This is emphasized not only by her behavior throughout the series, but by the composition of shots of Mal and other characters, in which she always seems to be positioned higher or taller than others, giving the impression that she is at the top of the power structure and looking down on other characters. Mal is a mysterious character. As Schnee puts it, she is subtle, guards her secrets, and never quite says what she means. This makes her arcane, near cryptic characterization extremely appropriate. It is only through our scrutiny of the cinematic techniques employed in the scene that the covert extent of Mal's hierarchical position becomes unveiled. Once we grasp how important the setting of the theatre is, we begin to understand that everything that happens in the theatre is coordinated and facilitated by Mal, and that this is an extended metaphor for Mal's domination in Piltover politics in general. Every small detail, like the Medarda seal revealing Mal's ownership of the theatre, the performance on stage mirroring Jace's performance as a politician, the diegetic sound proving Mal as the main character of the scene, the golden wine and goblets symbolizing the elite subscribed to Mal's rule and discipline, the use of high angles emphasizing her elevated status in Piltover society, all these things, all these details, and possibly more help us to understand Mal's character and the role she plays in Arcane's fictional world. Had we missed these details, it is likely that we would have mistaken the scene to be mainly about Jace, and would not have fully understood how much power Mal holds over the rest of Piltover society. That was fun. Edited that for like 2 months. But yeah, we made it. We made it, guys. Thank you. Please support this. Like, am I really gonna say this? Please like and subscribe. Maybe comment. Thank you.